Welcome back again, folks. Another episode of the Profitable Sheep and Goat Production Podcast, soon to be called the Ramquip Podcast. I'm Leon Gaiman with Lost Creek Wholesale and Ramquip Equipment. I have with me today here my friend Matt Nault from Glenbrook Farms. And today we have a special guest on, Samuel Stoltzfus from Kingdom Livestock. A lot of you that have been shipping lambs, I'm sure, are aware the market's been doing some crazy things. Samuel buys a lot of lambs, and he's pretty up to date on what's happening with the market, and we thought we'd get him on just to talk about the sheep and goat market a little bit. So glad to have you on today, Samuel.
Yes, glad to be on as well. I think your podcast is great, and I'm glad to be a part of it today. So,
So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do, Samuel, to get started and give people a window into what you got going on there?
sure. So, a Kingdom Livestock Transport is our business here. Is how we first started. We started hauling sheep and goats into New York and New Jersey, and then now we, as well as haul, we have 7 trucks that haul nationwide. But then we also buy and sell quite a bit of our own livestock. We sell about 1,500 head a week into New York and New Jersey and all over the East Coast. We also have a retail butcher shop here on the farm where a lot of ethnic customers primarily come out and we butcher here for them. That's around another 150 head a week that we do here. And then we also have a slaughterhouse, a USDA plant about an hour and a half from here where we butcher, USDA for stores as well. So that's a bit about our operation.
Sure. So where's your, I didn't realize you had the USDA shop, I guess.
Yeah, that's out in Doylestown. We've had that for about 2 years now. So,
Okay.
you know,
So where's that lamb going? Is it staying local or?
yeah, a lot of that goes into New York and New
Okay.
Jersey and Philly. Yeah, we process a lot of beef there more so. Some lambs as well, about 400 or 500 lambs, and then 100 beef a week. A fair amount of that's just custom kill for other people,
Okay.
not as much of our own product. Yeah.
But so that's still pretty much all for ethnic market.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Some kosher and then a bunch of halal meat. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not like a packer type.
Right. It doesn't get further processed or anything like that. It all goes out on carcass. Yeah.
Yeah, I got you. I got
So then this would go into like a meat market where they're going to break that carcass down.
Exactly. It'll go into a little store in the middle of Philly or New York, on the side street, these little ethnic stores, and the customer will come in there and either buy a whole one to take home or they'll break it down into pieces for them. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Is there a specific, I know where this is a sheep and goat podcast, but are you sending goats into those places too?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, it really just depends on what the customers want. So we've got customers that want everything.
Yeah.
And some ethnicities, and we can get into this more, but certain ethnicities want certain kinds of animals, so that makes a big difference just where they're coming from, what they want, what their culture is, and all of that.
And on the beef side of things, are they looking for a particular, like, are these guys are looking for a double muscle, something
Right.
unique?
So yeah, some of them that's a lot of your Eastern Europeans and your like Asians, like people from like Russia and Turkmenistan and all of those countries up there. They'll take a good choice steer or yeah, even the double muscled ones. They really like those. But then your more Muslim customers from like let's say Pakistan or somewhere, they're going to want the beef that's leaner. So they're going to want 1,000 pound, Holstein or something like that. That's not very fat.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if you have any more. Does you want to say about what you guys do before we get into the what's happening with the crazy sheep market?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we buy a fair amount of sheep and goats all over the country, mainly from the upper Midwest, as well as some, local producers as well. So we, have a fairly good handle over the whole market in the country. And then, yeah, I mean, that's the bulk of what we do is sell sheep and goats at our slaughterhouse. And what we do here, butchering on the farm, is more of a side thing that's been growing. But yeah, that's us.
Why don't we put a plug in for that? If people want to sell lambs to you, how do they get a hold of you?
You just call the office 717-438-5500, and they can direct them to me. So, or send me an email, samuel@kingdomlivestock.com. That would work as well.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Very good. So what's your take on this market? So I just shipped, I got my sales slip laying here on my desk.
Mm-hmm.
See, I forget if I told you this, Samuel. I don't think I told you, Matt, but I shipped 4 call ewes last week to Meadville Livestock Auction, local here to me. And these were 4 ewes that, well, one didn't lamb. She was an 8-year-old ewe, kind of maybe medium flesh. She wasn't, I don't know what she weighed because they grouped 3 of them together. But anyway, 3 of them averaged 153 pounds. 2 of them were, I'm going to say, 170-pound ewes probably. And the other one was lighter. So they averaged 153. I got $1.80 a pound for them. That's
Wow.
crazy.
Yeah, that's a lot of money. For you.
And I had another one that I wanted it sold separate because I wanted to know what this particular animal, I wanted to know which animal this was. And she was a really, really good flesh. She had only milking out of one side. And I just pulled the lamb. It was probably, I figured it was big enough to wean. Anyway, that thing weighed 170 pounds and I got $1.75. That's $297.50.
Mm-hmm.
Or call you.
Oh, yeah. Now,
And that's not even at a regional market or something. That's at Meadville,
no,
which
it's
is a very
just
small scale.
local sale barn.
Yep. No, that's what those ewes have been bringing the last few weeks.
Like, that's crazy. I better not have any sheep looking at me cross-eyed when I go to the barn.
Yep.
It's a good time to go through your flock and get rid of anything that's not paying the bills.
That's exactly right.
And then I also had a little weather lamb that we had a set of twins born in June or something last year, just way out of sync. It was the ewe that had lambed in the fall, and I guess there was still a ram in. And anyway, so I had these two lambs, and they were on pasture all summer, just kind of left them do their things. And they weren't, so this thing wasn't real big. It weighed 55 pounds. It had got coccidia pretty bad, like this fall sometime. Both those lambs did, which I felt stunted them. And I thought, well, had put a band on this ram because he was running with some ewes and I didn't want him breeding anything. And I'm like, well, we'll get some weight on. We'll just ship him one of these times. We make a run to the auction. So I took him in and got $4 a pound, $220 for him.
Yep, that's what they're worth.
So yeah, what's driving let's talk about the call ewe market a little bit, because it is, if somebody has a ewe that needs, or ewes that need a go, boy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they've been higher than normal even the last several months, those ewes have. But then, yeah, the last few weeks it's just spiked. I mean, the call ewe market really is, in some ways, follows the lamb market. It's just, if there's not enough around, then some of these guys are going to try to slip a few more ewes in with their lambs when they sell them, like the packers will, or the customers, the guys out in the city. But then it's also just, they're just not around. So everybody that needs some ewes doesn't have enough of those. So it really comes down to supply and demand. And the weather has honestly played a very big factor in all of this the last few weeks. So we're coming into a time of year when lambs are short already, generally speaking. December through February, March, there's not many lambs around.
And break that out just a little bit. Why are we short? Just so.
Well, most of these guys, a lot of guys out west will lamb in the spring, spring and fall or summer, and then their lambs are all sold in the fall. And when the wintertime comes, there's no lambs around.
Yep.
Now that is changing slowly. More of these guys are doing fall lambing. Like the one still that we buy out of it in South Dakota, they've had, 5 or 6 years ago, they had almost no fall lambs. Now they've got, hundreds of them every sale. So that's a good thing. It's bringing stability to the market, but it hasn't really affected the prices yet because they're selling them at a time of year when the lambs are needed and their quality, the quality is there. So that's actually bringing more buyers to the market in that situation.
Well, and another thing that's probably playing into that right now is with how the holidays are landing over the winter time in our low supply. So even if we have more lambs, we need so much more right now.
Yeah, and that's what happened the last 2 weeks. So if you get more specific, about in the middle of January, we had this storm hit, and all of the sales out west, really slowed down. like down in Texas, for example, for that one hard week there, all of the sales were canceled. And so there's all of those lambs that, are maybe 8 to 10,000 lambs a week hitting the market that are not going to market. And so then that drove prices up here in the East because people, still need lambs for their normal day-to-day, even though the end of January is usually a slower time. So thankfully it was then, from a, buyer perspective, but from a seller perspective, if this storm would have been over even a busier time yet, it would have really gotten very crazy. I mean, it already got crazy, but so then what happened then was, as we started coming out of that last week, so last Monday, 10 days ago, at New Holland, the lamb sale was the highest sale I've ever seen in my life. And that happened just because Ramadan started today. And these, packers, these buyers were all sitting there saying they need lambs for this week. And they only had 1,500 head there. They had a very late run. So that's, and that was all due to the weather out west. These, farmers were not shipping their lambs. It was too cold. So they all hit what lambs were there, hit the market, and that kind of set the stage for the rest of the country. This whole last, week and a half, lambs have been very high. This week, they softened up just a little bit, but they still need them. Yeah. And, what remains to be seen is, are these lambs going to start coming out of the woodwork the next couple of weeks now that the weather's warming back up? That's going to change things a little bit, but we're still in a time of year when there's a lot of demand and there's, generally not as much supply. So prices are going to stay, fairly strong.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just it's crazy. And it's just, since COVID, lambs have been better.
Oh, yeah.
My observation, like
Yeah.
Way better.
Yep.
Yeah.
They've been really good.
Yeah.
I mean,
I can't make money right now. It's not a market problem.
I remember probably 10, 12 years ago saying that if I didn't get $1.50 a pound, didn't work.
Exactly. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yep.
And yes, costs have changed in the last 10 years, but
that's what I was going to bring up, because I used to say a couple years, this was even prior to COVID, when we started seeing some higher prices. And I would say, well, don't get used to this. If we can't make money at $2 a pound for 100-pound lambs, you probably shouldn't be in the business, or you should be figuring out how you can make money at that. I wouldn't say that anymore, because $2 isn't what it was 5 years ago.
Exactly right.
It's I don't think any of us really know where that's at now, but because everything's changed, price, cost, everything has changed so fast.
And it's changed stuff. Yeah, you just can't stay on top of it.
Everybody's just trying to figure out where it even should be, but yeah.
And like beef is high, so lambs should go up from that perspective. But still, yeah, it's just been crazy high.
What do you see? What do you see? So the question I've been getting a lot is, what are the next couple weeks or even months going to bring? What do you see coming there?
I think it's going to get a little softer, like these crazy highs that we've seen the last 2 weeks, like, $4.50 a pound for some of these heavy lambs. I think that's going to, dump off a little bit. I don't think they're going to like majorly crash or anything. I think we're going to see these lambs stay pretty strong. I mean, I would expect these lambs to stay in the threes, $3.50 for these good lambs, especially here locally. I think that should be happening for the next month or two, but who knows? We'll see what happens.
With the Ramadan holiday, so they buy a bunch at the start of the holiday, but they also buy through the holiday, and especially for the feasts at the end of the holiday. Is that right?
Let's talk about Ramadan a little bit, because I had somebody just ask me about this yesterday. Because for people that don't know, Ramadan is a holiday when the Muslim people, as part of their religion, they fast for a month. And I had this guy ask me yesterday, he said, how can they fast and still use more lambs? That doesn't make sense. And for us, it doesn't. But the way they fast is a little different. So, and Ramadan just started this morning, for your information. So basically they fast from sun up to sundown, no food, no water. And then during the evening, they all eat. They have big family gatherings and all of this. So that's what drives the market in the beginning and the end of Ramadan, is because they have more family gatherings over those times. So, the last 4 or 5 days have been very, very, very busy. because a lot of these guys are getting ready. They're having their family gatherings. They're buying lambs, so they're ready. And it'll stay fairly busy for another 3 or 4 days, and then it'll slow down. And once we get, within the last week of Ramadan, like let's say in March the 14th or 15th, it'll really start picking back up again. Yeah.
And what kind of lambs do they want for this holiday? Because I think that's important. I often see people sending, they know there's a holiday, so they send whatever they're used to selling or whatever they have, but that doesn't always work. I mean, right now everything's just selling crazy, so I think you're okay to do that. But usually it pays to know what they want for that holiday and send that and leave your other stuff at home. But
So what they want really depends on who they are and what
yeah.
their, background is. But generally speaking, a lot of these people are going to want a lamb that's 60 to 100 pounds. Really, a lot of your normal lambs that get used on a weekly basis is really what Ramadan is. The Eid holiday in, May, that's a little different, where then they want a little different kind of animal. But for Ramadan, it's just more of the normal size lambs that most of these people normally get. So don't send your little 40, 50-pound junkers, but send something that's good, that's got good flesh on it. Yeah. The call ewes as well, like that's not really affected as much by Ramadan, these heavier call ewes. There you go to more African and Mexican customers. They're higher more so just because there's just not been enough call ewes around the last few months. They've been higher, and the fat lambs are higher as well, so that's playing into that, like your traditional fat lambs.
Yeah.
But the lighter weight call ewes, like these 100-pound lambs, are used. They've been very high. Like we had some at New Holland on Monday bring in 250, 275 a pound. Just because these guys will buy them and mix them in with their lambs.
Yep.
So
yep, they'll get sold as lambs.
Yeah. Same thing happens with, little lambs and kid goats. They'll switch them all the time too. A lot of these, when kid goats get high this time of year, your number 2 light lambs get higher just because of that.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah,
so not really the way I would like to do it, but is what happens. So
you need product to sell, I guess.
yeah, I mean, I don't do it obviously, but it happens at the store level usually.
So let's talk a little bit more about the quality of lamb that they're looking for.
Sure. So that's going to depend on the size that you're selling. But generally speaking, customers want a lamb that's young and, fed very well and thick. So that's usually accomplished by grain. But your people that want a lighter 50 to 60-pound lamb, like your Yemeni people from the country of Yemen, they want a lamb that's just the best of the best. Usually a Dorset lamb is what they like. Even a really good hair lamb that's just really, really fancy, but they have to be right off the moms, not weaned. Just, the hair coat has to be very tight, and they look very thick. That's the kind of lambs that the Yemeni people want. When you get to yeah, exactly. Butterballs, we call them. Yep, that's right. And out in like Mount Hope, Ohio, for example, they've had a very strong market for those because they raise a lot of good Dorsets out there, and that's the one place in the country where you can buy them. This time of year, there's not many of them around, so there's a lot of, they're bringing very high prices because of that. But then your heavier lambs, like a 70 to 80-pound lamb, if they're going to a live market, they're going to want something that's very, very nice. If they're going to a packer buyer, at that point you start getting there where they want the lambs a little bit leaner. So they still want them good, but they don't want a lot of fat on the lambs. And that's probably my biggest complaint I get from customers when I'm selling heavy lambs is, there's too much fat on them. Because these people, we're used to eating fat with our meat, but a lot of these people are not. So when that lamb is hanging on the rill at the butcher shop, they're going to go and cut all the fat off of it. So then that's money they're losing. If you cut a pound of fat off of a lamb, that's, $10 on the rill or whatever. So that's basically a big thing you got to watch out for is you want your lamb to be really good, really thick, but not too fatty. And the biggest way to accomplish that is by having a framier lamb and that's fed well and still young. So for example, one of the reasons I like wool sheep a little better than hares is generally they're a little framier generally, and they're not as fat as a hair sheep is. Obviously, hair sheep genetics keep improving, but and Matt's making sure that's going to happen. So
I'm glad you brought this up. So I printed off the market report from this last Monday, and I see the hair lambs sold for more than the wool lambs. So what's up?
Well, they didn't have any wool lambs to sell.
obviously, with what you're saying with fat lambs, I don't necessarily think the market reflects that. Like when I send lambs to New Holland, it I've never had them too fat that they dock me for. Too heavy,
To that, right. Well, see,
which
they're not
maybe is
gonna see that when they're standing in the ring. That's what
right.
they're gonna say once they kill them.
Exactly. But my point is, obviously I'm trying to make money, so
Yep.
I've never seen it where they're docking me for having them too fat. Now I can see that's a problem on your end, and you can't really see it in the rink. So
Right.
I mean, it's
I mean, I
something
can
for us
see it
to.
because I know what I'm looking for. But
Okay.
a lot of these buyers don't know what they're looking for. They
Yeah.
can't see it. They see a lamb that looks very nice and young, and they want a
Right.
lamb like that. And don't get me wrong, don't stop feeding your lambs because you don't want them to get over fat.
Yeah.
You want these lambs to be young and good,
Yeah.
but it's more in the genetics of having them, be a little bit framier.
Gotcha.
And yeah, and I would say your lambs are very good, Matt. I mean, these, very good long-legged Katahdins, they've gotten very good.
Yeah.
But as far as the hair versus wool, yeah, I mean, the last 2 Mondays in New Holland, they've not had enough animals, and the market's been so crazy that any good quality lamb sells.
Right. But the hair
Out west,
still selling for more.
I mean, I didn't see a lot of a difference, but they didn't see how many wool lambs. I mean, there was one group that was pretty high, but yeah, they just weren't
The
there.
2 weeks ago when I had lambs there, they did run a group of really nice Dorset 100 pound, like 90 to 100 pound Dorset lambs through there that sold for quite a bit more than my hair lambs. But it seemed anything other than it seems it's shifted to where they've really become to appreciate our local well-fed hair
Yeah, yeah.
lambs, which are heavy Katahdin, maybe some Dorper influence. That's really shifted to where it seems there's still, I think that Dorset lamb is still the kind of the premium.
On the light lambs, yes, and on the heavy lambs, is more of a black-faced lamb is what they like, because the Dorsets get a little fat. It's a little too fat when they get heavy.
Yeah.
So
But
it's where your black
but
fruit.
they really shifted to where they're I think they're almost preferring for maybe not your specialty, but kind of for your we need a good quality lamb to sell. It seems like they're really liking those hair lambs. That's
Well,
just
they're liking them because they're good lambs.
yeah,
You know, any good lamb sells.
yeah,
And I mean, wools are generally, especially if we get times when they have more lambs and there's plenty of good lambs to choose from, that's where I see more of a
a
difference.
little more, yeah,
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 but a good lamb sells
yeah,
regardless. But the one thing though is there's a lot of fluctuations in the market. Like you mentioned 2 weeks ago, the sill got a lot higher towards the end. And a lot of
yeah,
what they had at the end was more of these hair lambs. They sold more of the wools in the beginning.
okay,
And so those things play into it as well.
sure.
Uh, especially if you're looking at New Holland, the price can vary, 20 or 30 cents, within an hour. It's not always stable.
Let's talk about that because that's really frustrating for guys trying to market because
Mhm.
man, if you and you're never gonna hit it every time, but if you hit the market right, you can make way more money by that decision than any other decision you made on your farm all year. But it just swings. And like you said, even within a sale, if yours sell earlier or later, it could be different. If at the moment that yours run through, two guys are just not paying attention, you could be
Mhm.
down 20, 30 cents. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
and I want to say a lot of that's at New Holland specifically. Like these stills out
yeah,
west, where the buyers are different, things are a little bit more stable.
right.
New Holland consists of, and for people who are out of the area might not understand this, 90 or 80% of the buyers at New Holland are all ethnic buyers.
Yeah.
They're not, traditional American buyers. And so these people really are not good at thinking ahead, to be honest. And they show up, they want to buy some lambs, they see some, they buy them and go home. Or they decide to all get together and try to lower the price, or they have these games they play. And because they come from a different culture, a different, have different values than what we do as Americans, they think so differently when it comes to these things. And that's part of what pushes this market at New Holland in so many crazy directions, is because they just think so differently, and they don't sit there and say, let's just hold this price the same all,
Right.
day. Let's share these lambs and make sure everybody gets them. They don't do that. They just think right for that minute.
Yep.
And that's what gets fun if you know how to handle some of that. And I know Matt likes to send them there when there's not many animals there because they get more. And that is another key factor at New Holland, for example, is when they have 17 or 1800 lambs, the price is going to be very strong because there's not that many there. But if they have 23 or 2400, that's only a few hundred more, but they'll really lower the price because of that at times, just because those are the way they think. That's the way they think.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it's also because there's such a range of quality of lambs there.
Exactly.
Yeah. If they have the same they did the week before, but the quality just isn't there, and you send good quality lambs in, they'll bring more.
Exactly right. Yeah.
And that's why I didn't ship this week, because I still have some. I missed last week when it was crazy high, but most times after a really high sale, the next sale, everybody ships. Now I knew with the Ramadan holiday, demand's still going to be high, so I wasn't being too scared to do that. But most times, when we're in somewhat of a stable market, almost every other week you get a get a high sale, and
The
then
other thing that plays into it is like the beginning of the month is always higher generally. And that's due to the fact that a lot of these customers buy with food stamps, like at the store level. So about 30% of the sales in most of these stores are all food stamps. Same with all the retail people that come to our farm here. We take food stamps here, and about 20 to 30% of our sales are food stamps.
Okay.
And now a lot of these people are immigrants. That's how they get food stamps. It's a whole nother discussion that we won't get into right now. But we did see it like when Trump, tried to slash some of these food stamps down a little bit. The market did, just hesitate just a little bit. Like it didn't crash or anything, but we saw, less orders than we did when it was, like during the beginning of the month. What makes the beginning of the month higher is these people get their new money like every 6th or 8th of the month. And so then it's a little stronger for that week because they're all going and buying. And then by the end of the month, they've all run out of money. And so they're waiting, for the next week. So that's a small, it's not a big change in the market, but that's one of those 10 or 20 cent shifts that, do make a difference.
Hey folks, just wanted to take a quick break and remind you that this podcast is hosted and sponsored by Lost Creek Wholesale, your supplier of Ramquip sheep and goat handling equipment, universal feeders, and Schumer sheep and goat equipment. If you like the content we're bringing to you, do us a favor, give us a like, subscribe, share with your friends. And if you're in need of equipment, feel free to visit our website, www.lostcreekwholesalellc.com, or give us a call, 717-310-3641. We'd be happy to try and help you out. Would also like to remind folks to mark their calendar for the sale Matt is having there at Glenbrook Farm in March. The sale is March 21. You can check out his website. It's www.glenbrookfarm.online. Or if you have questions or want a sale catalog, you could give Matt a call at 717-419-1980. And again, that's production sale at Glenbrook Farm is March 21st. Thanks again for listening, and now back to the fun stuff.
Yeah, I think it's just important for people to know that if they're selling at New Holland, that's why the market kind of swings all over the place, If you send your lambs in and they didn't bring what you thought they should, maybe that's why, the next time they might be the sale toppers. I know that's been frustrating for me. Is, I send lambs in one week and they come in and these guys get excited and they start yelling at each other, and I get 20 to 30 cents more than kind of what the average lamb was bringing. A week later, 2 weeks later, whatever, same quality of lambs, two of the guys have their backs turned and somebody buys them, but they just kind of go through, they don't get anybody excited, and you're down 20, 30 cents,
Yeah, like we'll see this the next whole month here during Ramadan. What the New Holland has done the last few years is they've stopped the sale while people's fast is breaking, like when the sun's going down. That way their buyers don't all walk out.
Yeah.
They used to not do that in the past, and you'd see a little bit of a lull right there. So yeah, it's interesting. And like that's one thing we do. Like we buy a fair amount of local lambs as well, and we try to be a bit more consistent. Some weeks we're higher than New Holland, some weeks we're cheaper. But that's we try not to get in those swings quite as much. So,
Yeah.
but some people like that, and some people don't, and it's
Yeah.
just it's fine.
That's what I always tell people, if they're gonna go buy from you, they're not gonna get that market high because you can't pay the market high all the time. But you might or you might not get that if you send it to New Holland. At least if they sell to you, they know what they're getting. If you send them to New Holland, you don't. You might hit that high, you might hit that dump week that it just sucks. I mean, we've had some where it was just like, man, I gave those lambs away, and they're sold. What are you gonna do about it?
Yep. Yeah.
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 So Samuel, since you're so far away from me, how many lambs do you need to make a pickup?
Well, if you're on my route, I mean, I'll make a pickup anywhere, but we have a monthly route. We go into like central PA, usually like uh Center County, Belleville area up into there. So for you, I mean, I price all my lambs landed at our buying station, and then if I pick them up, I just charge trucking. So if you're on our route, it's usually $5 to $8 a head for trucking. And if I come to you, since you are a ways away, I just charge mileage, and that'd be $4 a mile.
You're not running to Canada, so Land's out of the route.
Yeah, he's a ways away.
You get out to Mount Hope though.
I do sometimes, yeah. But that's usually when we've got somebody out there that's bringing half a load in and they throw our stuff on or something.
Yeah.
So it's a little different. It's hard to get my sale barn stuff on the same truck as my, farm stuff because it's a completely different operation in some ways. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
While we're talking about the market, and just looking ahead here, keep in mind Easter is coming. And I want to just debunk this myth one final time. Easter is not a market. Everybody, please understand that. Yeah, I think
It used to be.
it used to be. That's right. 20, 30 years ago, it really was a market. And what changed is a lot of these people that buy Easter lambs are, dying off or getting older, and the next generation is not buying lambs as much.
And those were Americans.
Exactly right. Western Europeans, Italians, Greeks, American Christian type people, not, Muslims from Afghanistan. And so it's just a different market. That's all it is. There is still some people that want Easter lambs, and those little 30 to 40 pound, lambs at Easter do get pretty high. But generally speaking, you're still better off feeding them heavy, especially with where the Muslim holidays have been doing right now. Selling a 30-pound lamb just does not make sense.
What about that other Eastern holiday? I forget what it's called. There's a second Eastern holiday.
Sure. So you have the Italian, the regular Easter that we're all used to having.
Yeah.
And then you have the Greek Easter, which is when the Greek people have their
that one.
Easter. And they take a little bigger lamb. They'll take like a 50 to 60-pound lamb.
Yeah.
But that's sometimes it falls at the same time as our Easter. Sometimes it's different. I think this year it's like 2 weeks later, if I remember right. But it's the Orthodox Easter. If you just research it, you can get that information.
Because I haven't for a while, but I have marketed for that holiday already and done all right.
Yeah, that is. And also we were at the time when Ramadan was going, over the holiday as well.
Yeah.
That's now changing to where Ramadan is in February, starting in February. So that makes a big difference as well.
Yeah.
A lot of these farmers were sending lambs to market over Easter, getting good prices, not realizing that it was because of Ramadan, had nothing to do with it. On a general market, when there's no other holidays affecting it, lambs slump at Easter, just because the market.
Good time to buy feeder lambs.
There, exactly right. Actually, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Well, and then you had the Eid holiday come up
Yep.
at the end of May. So how's that all?
And she's getting to the middle of May now, which I do want to explain this. Both of these Muslim holidays, which is Ramadan, which is the month-long one, and then Eid al-Adha is the full name for it. That follows 70 days after the end of Ramadan. And both of these holidays move backwards 10 days every year. So used to be this big Eid holiday used to be in October. Now it's going to be the middle of May this year. And this holiday is the largest holiday of the year. Basically, most Muslim families will buy a lamb or a part of a beef and butcher it. And so, I mean, like we'll move, 10,000 head over 2 or 3 weeks. So it's very, very busy. So that market there, I think is going to be very strong this year. The last few years, it keeps getting stronger, partly due to the fact that it's getting into the time of year when lambs are not around as much.
Yeah.
And so, that really affects it.
That's an interesting dynamic we have right now with Ramadan in the middle of winter, and then the Eid in May, kind of the end of winter. Really sets us up for some high lamb prices the next couple winters here.
Oh, it's gonna carry on for a while. Once we get Eid to the middle of winter and even, like, over Christmas, Christmas is a high time of year as well because not as many lambs are marketed and there's more demand anyway. Yeah, I think these things are gonna stay very high.
Yeah, and then once these holidays get into the fall again, which will be the number of years,
Yep,
that'll kind of peter out because then you have all the lambs you need, and even if we start getting those holidays, into around New Year, um, guys are gonna just hold their lambs a little longer from summer, and but
exactly.
for
That's right.
but that'll be a number of years, so
Yeah,
we should see some pretty high lamb price in the winter time for the next couple of years. But
for sure.
last summer, lambs never really got cheap,
No, they didn't.
and there weren't really any I mean, there's always some holidays, but none of the major ones. Um, was supply down? What's
Supply was down, the fat lambs in the West were higher, so then that means that these packer buyers that are buying your traditional lamb that used to go to your traditional American market for like 130, 140 pound lamb. When those lambs are higher, then the feeder buyers are paying more, obviously, which means the ethnic price is higher, and it goes the other way around as well. So that was part of it, and yeah, the supply was just lower. People had a little bit more money again. Like 2 years ago, I felt like a lot of the customers were just saying they didn't have as much money.
Mm,
As far as like, we had all that money came into the economy over COVID and it kind of slumped off. Last year seemed to pick back up again just a little bit. But yeah, a lot of it came down to supply. I mean, obviously it got cheaper, but not to the level that it normally does in the
right.
summertime.
Yeah. How much do you know about that Western Packer market? What's driving that higher? Does anybody know?
Sure.
They always
Supply
seem
and
to have a
demand are a
reason,
huge
but
thing. Yeah. I mean, and they have some major swings in there as well.
I
I mean,
know
they could
it.
go from $1.60 a pound for a fat lamb up to right now it's like, 245.
Yeah.
So
They're worse. They're almost worse for big swings
oh,
and
they're way
kind of
worse.
long-term swings than the ethnic markets.
Exactly. They're exactly right. Like over COVID, that one week when everything crashed, fat lambs were bringing 80 cents a pound.
But then a couple weeks or a month later,
A couple
they
months
were
later, they're bringing $2. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
It's crazy. But, yeah, that's driven a lot by how many lambs are around on feed, and I think the ethnic market is going to help bring some consistency into that market because we're buying a lot more of their lambs that used to get fed up in the upper Midwest, like Iowa and Minnesota, South Dakota. That's where a lot of these lambs are fed, for the regular traditional market, and, so, yeah, a lot of it comes down to supply and demand, and imports obviously as well.
Yeah.
That's where your imports play a lot more of a factor.
Do you think the tariffs that Trump put on Australia for imports, do you think that helped?
I mean, it definitely helped a
Even
little,
though it's
but the tariff wasn't
so
very
small.
high.
Right.
Yeah, it's not like it's going to make a big difference. And the thing with Australian lamb is it's so cheap.
Yeah.
Like they raise these lambs, out there in such an economical way, and especially when you get into the goat market, a lot of their goats are just, I mean, they're just brush goats, so they can just
They're
have
wild
pastures.
goats.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's just so different.
Like
But then what?
it's like catching pigeons around here. I mean, they're just literally going out and catching these go I mean, literally it is.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And they're old and tough. They're 2 or 3 years old,
Yeah.
and it's frozen meat, so it's a completely different market than what we have here, and I think we need to try to make sure the consumer knows that. 'Cause
Yeah.
when you're buying boxed meat from Australia, it's frozen, it's been killed 3 or 4 months ago, and it's a completely different lamb than a fresh American lamb,
Yeah.
and we see this especially in the goats, especially. They do make some decent Australian lamb, but still not the same.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely a marketing tool that a story we have to tell to the
Mhm.
consumers about American lamb. It's
Exactly right.
fresh, it's local. Um, Most people are just mind blown when I tell them that we import, and I don't remember exactly what the numbers are, but 70-80% of the lamb that gets eaten in the US.
Yeah, it's maybe not quite that high, but it's up there. It's quite a
Okay.
bit, yeah.
Well, there's been
Over half for
times
sure.
when it was, I know, over 80%. Now
It
I
swings a
don't
lot
know if it
too. If imports
right.
are cheaper, like when they had those forest fires in Australia a few years ago, the imports got a lot higher, and then we use more American meats. So those things do
Yeah.
affect it.
And the
So
Australian lamb is not it's not necessarily better quality. I'm asking a question. The way I understand it, it's more consistent, but it's not necessarily better.
Oh, it's definitely not better. I mean, from my perspective,
Mm.
I mean, for one, it's frozen and it's been there for so long. I think your American lamb's not going to be in the pipeline as long. It's just going to be fresher.
Yeah.
And a lot of these ethnic customers don't want Australian lamb because it's frozen.
Right.
The whole basis of the ethnic, thought process is they want the lamb that's fresh. And none of these lambs in the ethnic pipeline stay in the cooler more than a couple of days.
Right.
So that, and especially when you're getting into the live market side of things, they want, those ethnic people will pay a premium for some of these lambs because they want to go and see this lamb that's live, know what it is. It's like they're used to doing back in their countries. I was in Africa here a year ago on some mission work, and I mean, it was like that. You went over there and their meat markets, I mean, reminded me completely of a meat markets in New York City. I mean, obviously the ones in America are a little cleaner and nicer, but still there's a lot of similarities.
Yep. Yeah. But to Leon's point, I've heard, grocery stores, the reason they carry Australian lamb or imported lamb versus American lamb is not that they don't like the American quality. It's just they can't get it all the time. So they need, and it's a different product. So they prefer the consistency over the import. They can get it all the time. It's always consistent. Um,
That
yeah,
makes sense. Price is a big factor though, too. I
sure,
mean, Australian
sure.
lamb's way cheaper. So, I mean, the
Sure,
the supermarket wants to make money somehow.
Yeah, they just
sure.
need to charge more for it.
Yeah, exactly. Uh-huh.
Just like us farmers ought to do.
Yeah.
We just need
Or we
to.
got to figure out how to raise them, more consistent and cheaper, but
So,
I don't know if that's going to happen. So,
so here's a sidebar to that. They have a much cheaper production model over there.
mhm,
But
mhm.
what I'm trying to figure out, and I know the answer, I think, is on their breeding stock side. You see them sell stud rams for 50, $60,000. And whereabouts, a top stud ram in the US will bring maybe 5, 6,000. There's been a
Right.
couple instances of maybe 10,000. Anything higher than that was probably a show, more of a
Right.
show animal. But um, I mean, it makes sense because they have a much more established market. That stud ram, they're gonna collect them. They're gonna do embryo transfers and spread it out of the
Mhm,
big
mhm.
field. But I always look at the prices they get for some of their stud animals over there, and I'm like, man, I guess we just need more sheep production. 'Cause then maybe we can start getting those kind of prices over
Exactly.
here.
They also have a lot less regulation. That makes a
Sure.
huge difference. Like, even just, I mean, in America, everything is regulated. Like, even I counted up the amount of, government agencies that, are involved in our operation, from, occasional audits, or, might, that they're there. I mean, it's like 14 of them,
Yeah.
and it's just, we're regulated so heavily in America, and even in the livestock industry is not even near as regulated as, like, some other industries.
Yeah.
So, that makes a
That helps their cost of production. Yeah. Yeah.
and everything's so large scale over there. That's probably the biggest one.
Yeah, yeah. What This is totally getting off of our uh subject here, but I think it's worth saying. And so over there, their production model is basically they have a lot of cheap land, they're running large acreage, low inputs.
Mhm, mhm.
There's some people that seem to think we should do that same thing in America. I don't think that works in America. Obviously, we don't
Right.
have the land base, except for, parts in Texas, out west, some places, or even Midwest, or even on the east here, maybe some strip mines that people reclaim strip mines that people are
Over.
grazing,
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
sort of stuff. But for the most part, that's not a production model that we can put across the US.
Right, well, it's not gonna work great for the ethnic market.
Mhm.
Now, for a traditional market, it works. Like, a lot of your range lambs out west, those lambs used to, as of, until a few years ago, used to all go in the traditional pipeline.
Yeah.
And so those lambs were all, lambed out in the Rocky Mountains, and then they're all getting, raised up to 80 pounds and sent to the feedlot, and then fed up to 140. And you can take a grass lamb and feed it if you put enough feed into it. That works for that market.
But that production model is not working necessarily because it's decreasing every year.
Right. But there's other things that are flowing into that as well. But yeah,
Sure.
I agree.
So I mean, yes, that is their production model out there, but I don't know that it's necessarily working that great. And there's other factors. Maybe it's maybe not a production model problem as much. But what I'm getting to is the real opportunity, and I know you'll agree with me. The real opportunity I see in the U.S. And I actually kind of hate to say this, but the real opportunity I see in the US is lambs in confinement. Uh, Put them in confinement, feed them what they need, breed the genetics to match that production system. That's what we've done with every other industry, cattle, pigs,
Yep.
poultry, and I know a lot of people hate this answer, and honestly, I kind of hate it myself because
Same.
I like nothing better than having my sheep out on grass, grazing, rotating grazing, and all that. But it is what it is, and I see that's where I see the real opportunity in the U.S.
Especially in the East here.
Yeah,
Oh, you have you had RH on there from Cluck Ranch here a few weeks ago.
yeah,
Their operation is great, but it works for them.
yeah,
That would never work here.
sure.
And even them, the numbers they get, their kidding percentages and things, it's like, we get way better than that on our confinement farms.
Mhm.
So yeah, I agree 100%. I think that's really the only future.
Yeah, you need to consider what you have. If you have a large land base to graze, then yeah, that's probably the way to do it. Here let's just, here in PA,
Yeah.
nobody, I shouldn't say nobody, very few people have extra grazing land that they can't utilize. So even if they have grazing land to
Except
utilize,
for maybe Leon up there in Canada.
true. Yeah, I have heard that from him. So maybe he's not in this discussion. But for the most part, if they have a lot of grazing land, that's great. Utilize it with your ewes, but during those lambs, after you wean them, bring them in the barn and feed them.
Ideally before that. Well, it depends when you're trying to market.
Well, but you can creep feed them. You can creep
Yeah,
feed them
exactly,
on those ewes, and your ewes are just eating that forage you have out there, and then you bring them in and you put them on feed and you take them to market, and some you'll pay top dollar for,
There you go.
either at your farm or down at New Holland, who had to fight over it with the ethnic guys and decide what they're worth. So
Yeah. I mean, a good lamb always pays, and I mean, just pump the feed to the lambs. That's the biggest thing. I mean, I think genetics are important, but more important than genetics, from my perspective, is management and nutrition.
Yeah.
You have to; those two things are key.
Yeah.
And that's what it takes to get good lambs.
And there is some guys that do that on grass. I don't want to
Yeah, it is
there's some guys that do a really good job with that on grass. It is possible. It's a lot harder than people let on, but there is some guys that can do that on grass.
especially on a lighter weight lamb. On a lamb that's going to 50, 60 pounds, they're getting raised on the mother's milk.
Right.
That's really what's racing.
Right. So if you have the ewes milk well, the lambs.
That's key.
Yeah. Yep.
Hey, all right. That's been a great discussion.
Sure has. And I'll put one plug in here yet for goat guys. We do buy goats as well, and a lot of these things apply to goats as well. And this is a high time of year for goats as well. So
I forgot about that. I was gonna bring that up and ask you about what you're doing with goats.
And pretty much all the holidays that apply to sheep affect the goat markets.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's some more nuances. In fact, we could get into a podcast just going into every holiday. It might even be a good idea sometime.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty similar overall.
Well, we appreciate you coming on. I'm sure you're super busy with the holidays and everything.
Yep.
So appreciate you taking the time to come on.
Alrighty, yep.
Thanks a lot. And if folks want to get a hold of you, you gave your phone number there again. Why don't you just give it one more time? That way people can find you if they want to connect with you.
Sure. It's 717-438-5500.
All right. There you got it, folks. Hey, thanks again, Samuel. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Same. Likewise. Thank you, guys.
Have a good day.
Thanks again for listening, folks, to the Profitable Sheep and Goat Production Podcast, soon to be called the Ram Quip Podcast. Remember, if you have a question or a topic that you'd like to hear discussed on the podcast, feel free to give us a call. That's 717-310-3641. Select the option for podcast questions. You can leave me a voicemail there, or you can email me, leon@lostcreekwholesale.net. Thanks again. We'll catch up with you next time.